Well, to be sure, Simon Crean is one of the great survivors of labour movement politics. He's known many highs and lows in his political and before that industrial career. And like Kevin Rudd, Simon Crean knows the bitter reality of being dumped as Labour leader by his party room. He's now been chosen by Julia Gillard to take over her many portfolios: employment, education, workplace relations, social inclusion. And that appointment puts Simon Crean very much back on the front line of politics as the election draws near. In Canberra, he's speaking with our political editor, Alison Carabine.
Good morning, Simon Crean.
Hi, Alison. How are you?
Well, thank you. Look, we'll get to your portfolios in a moment, but Kevin Rudd, he's the main talking point this morning. Is it not humiliating for Kevin Rudd to be excluded from the Gillard cabinet? He was Prime Minister of this country just 5 days ago.
Well, factually that's correct, and it was a tumultuous exercise last week. Clearly the Prime Minister has signalled he will have a senior position were we to win the election. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to focus on. She's had the conversation with the former Prime Minister. She's made the decision, and I support that decision.
Do you have much sympathy for the position that Kevin Rudd finds himself in? Like Kevin Rudd, you were dumped by the party, and how do you think he is feeling at the moment?
I know exactly how he feels. I don't just have sympathy, I've got empathy. I've been through it. And it is a traumatic time. There's no question about that. But I think that what one has to do is to not dwell on the past, not understand the hurt, get on with the job and look forward. And I think that the signal that the Prime Minister sent yesterday about the preparedness to welcome him, if we're to win, into a senior position in the government is a very strong statement. He should take heart in that. But importantly, what we've got to do now is actually secure the election win. And that's our task.
Now, you never got the chance to fight an election as Labor leader. Kevin Rudd has lost his chance to fight an election as Labor Prime Minister. Can you understand the anger in the community among voters who feel ripped off that they never got the chance to pass their own judgment on Kevin Rudd?
Yes, I think we've got to connect with that. I was out in the community myself over the weekend and there was an element of that, but there was overwhelmingly goodwill to the new Prime Minister as well. I think there was a sense of the fact that we had sent out some conflicting signals. What they wanted was greater certainty, a belief that Labor has actually performed well as a government. This is, an inherent sense and a frustration with the way in which we'd seemingly lost our way. So I think that whilst there was the anger, the surprise, if you like, more surprise than anger, quite frankly, surprised that this had happened so quickly. There was also a sense of relief that Labor was getting back on track. And when you look at many of the things that we've done, people want to see that continued because they compare it with what we replaced and why, with Kevin as the leader, we overwhelmingly replaced the previous government. I think they want us to get on with the task, but they want us convinced that we're focused on the task. Our job now is to meet that aspect, show them we're focused again, we've laid the solid foundations, we're going to keep building.
I guess a part of the new Prime Minister's agenda is to change the way in which government operates in this country. Julia Gillard is promising a more team-oriented approach to governing. Significant decisions will be taken by the full cabinet, not subcommittees such as the old Gang of Four. Now, how frustrating was it for senior ministers such as yourself to be essentially locked out of the decision-making process?
I think that the best governments in this country are those that draw the talents and the expertise of the people that sit around the table.
And Kevin Rudd never did that?
Well, there were times he didn't do it. There were times he did it, and I think we made better decisions when he did it. It's a pity that it wasn't done on more occasions. But again, let's get focused here. We can talk about the past as much as you like. I think the Australian people want us to get on with the future because it's about their future. I think the government did make some incredibly good decisions. It makes good decisions because it essentially is a good cabinet. Julia's indication that she wants to use that cabinet more effectively, I think, is a very strong signal in its own right. I think the country will be better for that decision-making process, and I'm delighted to be part of the team that can help develop those decisions.
Well, you are back on the political front line, but you are also the last Labor leader to take on the factions when you successfully reduced union control of the ALP, but it did cost you a lot of political skin and ultimately the leadership. Is it just not worth it taking on the factions if you are Labor leader, or in Kevin Rudd's case, snubbing the factions?
It's always worth taking on any group if you believe that what you're fighting for is worth fighting for. I can go through chapter and verse all of the circumstances of the past. Again, I don't think that takes us very far. As a government, we should be beholden to no one. We should consult with all. We should be a consultative government, but we have to make our own decisions based on the best departmental advice, based on the best political judgment, but most of all in a fundamental belief of what we sought to get elected for, to advance the interests of this country, to increase opportunity, to build the prosperity of the nation. They're the hallmarks against which all decisions have to be taken. Now, different interest groups will have their own views about how we should do that. We've got to consult with them, we've got to engage with them, but in the end, we make the decisions. And if we make that decisions with all of the considerations, bringing together people with all of their connections, all of their ability to consult, coming round the table, thrashing the issue out, that's when good government operates.
It's 9 minutes to 8 on Radio National Breakfast. I'm joined by the new Minister for almost everything, Simon Crean, Minister for Employment, Education and Workplace Relations. Now, you're giving up trade, you're taking on some of the government's trickiest portfolios. Was it a job that you really wanted?
Well, of course, I was delighted to be offered by the Prime Minister. I'm sorry in a sense to be giving up trade because I loved doing what I was doing there, and as frustrating as it was, it too was about securing the economic future of the country. But Stephen Smith will be a terrific trade minister in addition to the foreign minister. The foundations for a lot of what's needed to be done in trade is there, and I have indicated to him that if he ever needs, any advice, I'm there as well. But the new portfolio for me, I think, is a real opportunity. I think education is the great enabler. It ensures that people have better opportunity in life. People with higher education, higher skills get better paid.
That's
I think it's more for a tolerant society, but I think it's also fundamental to our economic future.
Yeah, that's a given, Minister. One of the big challenges for you ahead will be dealing with the problems of the BER School Halls program. What assurances are you seeking day one in the job that money is not being wasted?
I want value for money, and I'm going to make sure that we get it.
Is the government getting it at the moment?
Well, I've heard lots of allegations that we're not. But when, in fact, there has been a deficiency over a long period of time in investing in our schools, the fact that a Rudd Labor government came to power and said one of the first things we're going to do is to reinvest in our schools, I think was a terribly strong, committed statement. Now, what we have to do always with these programs is to ensure that we get value for money, but do not sell the program down the river simply because people assert that there are some examples of waste and mismanagement. If there are, let's get to the bottom of why that happened. That's why we've got an inquiry. It has to report to me. I will be consulting with it. Let's make a judgment about that at the appropriate time.
Now, just finally, Minister, Cabinet will meet today. The mining issue is still a big problem, a big challenge for the government. When might we see a resolution? If it's not quickly, if it's not this week, do you not threaten to restart the advertising war with the mining industry?
It's one of the issues the government needs to resolve. The Prime Minister has made that absolutely clear.
How quickly will it be resolved?
That is a matter for her and the negotiating team, Wayne Swan and Martin Ferguson. Competent trio, know what's got to be done. What it needs is goodwill on the other side.
And we've got that. Yeah. Thanks very much, Simon Crean, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Alison Carabine, in our Canberra studio. 8 to 8.